The crash happened a little after 4 this afternoon at the intersection of Sutel Drive and Gibson Avenue. If you're thinking there have been quite a few crashes involving JSO lately, you're right. First Coast News' Lana Harris is digging deeper into those crashes. And Lana, you're joining us live outside JSO headquarters.
Yeah, Jeff, and just a note here, these are just accidents that involve JSO officers, like the one this afternoon. You might be able to hear that honking behind me, I'm sorry. Like the one this afternoon, the JSO officer reportedly had his lights and sirens on, was responding to a call, and a Camaro pulled out in front of it. But still,
not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 times within the last month, JSO officers have been involved in car crashes. The first of the chain started on April 8th, when a woman rear-ended the officer's patrol car as he was pulled off on the I-295 shoulder. The next happened at the end of the month, April 24th, and it was a twofer. In the morning, an off-duty officer rear-ended another car, sending it crashing into 2 more. And that same night, a woman reportedly pulled into the path of a JSO SUV, and the 2 crashed, trapping her inside. The 4th crash happened just days ago, May 1st, when a woman rear-ended the officer on 295. She reportedly failed to move over and hit his car, which was stopped at a construction site. That brings us to the latest crash, May 5th, when this white Camaro reportedly pulled in front of the JSO vehicle while lights and sirens were on. All 3 people in the Camaro were sent to the hospital, including a 4-year-old. The JSO officer also went to the hospital with minor injuries.
Fatalities in any of these accidents, but it is the law in Florida that if you see an emergency vehicle, a law enforcement vehicle, sanitation vehicle, things like that, you have to move over, and if you can't do so safely, then you have to go 20 miles under the posted speed limit. Outside of JSO, I'm Lana Harris, First Coast News on your side.